heroes of the sea, men of courage and resolve, with souls as vast as the ocean. They feared nothing, and they endured everything, guided by the stars and by the will to face the unknown. They challenged the winds. They rounded the Cape of Storms. They sailed beyond every map, carrying not just hope, but the spirit of a nation. When they reached India, they brought more than sails and names. They carried the echo of a people who dared to dream beyond the horizon. And from that voyage on, the world was never the same. By 1497, Portugal was no longer just a kingdom. It had become a purpose. It had become a vision, a project drawn in silence, nurtured by years of exploration, and born from the dreams of kings. Dom John II had already probed the route. It was Dom Manuel who inherited the vision and vowed to carry it to the end. It was not about sailing for glory. It was about reaching India, not across deserts, but across oceans, to break the hold of the eastern spice trade, and to open a new route that would link Lisbon to Calicut. The plan was no improvisation. It wasn't guesswork. It was built on the reports of Pero de Covilhã, on charts and astrolabes, and on years of silent exploration along the African coast. From Gil Eanes, who defied the fear of Cape Bojador, to Bartolomé Dias, the man who first glimpsed the end of Africa, many had cleared the path. Each sail, each storm, each loss was a line on the map of the impossible. Now the crown needed a man, not just a navigator, but a commander, a man of discipline, of silence that spoke of inner strength and of unshakable faith. They chose Vasco da Gama. He was named Captain Major of the India Fleet. The mission was simple to say, but vast to carry: to round Africa, to reach India, to open trade, and return home with proof that the sea could be conquered. On the morning of July 8, 1497, 4 ships ventured into the unknown. The St. Gabriel, captained by Vasco da Gama, the St. Raphael, entrusted to his brother Paulo da Gama, the Berrio, a nimble caravel under Nicolau Coelho, and a supply ship to carry provisions. Around 170 men. Sailors, soldiers, convicts, all bound for a destiny no one could promise. The sails rose beneath the cross of Christ, and on the banks of the Tagus, eyes of mothers and wives followed them until the sea swallowed the horizon. In the first days they sailed to the Canaries, then down to Cape Verde, before turning deep into the heart of the Atlantic. It was the great ocean turn, a sweeping arc southwestward, meant to catch the winds that blew east toward the most feared cape on earth. A month at sea, no land in sight. The sun burned overhead, and the water was running low. Hope was measured in silence. But in late November, they saw it, the Cape of Good Hope, and there the sea bared its teeth. Violent winds waved like walls. The ships groaned, as if their timbers had souls. But the fleet held. They made it around the Cape. And for the first time, the Indian Ocean was within reach. By January 1498, the fleet was sailing along the eastern coast of Africa. On March 2nd, they anchored off Mozambique. At first, they were welcomed with honor, mistaken for Muslim traders. But once it was known they came from a Christian kingdom, the mood changed. The locals turned cold. Help was denied, and the pilots who had boarded fled by swimming. The fleet left the bay under threat as ambushes began to form. In Mombasa, things got worse. They approached cautiously, but the townspeople were preparing for attack. One Arab ship was captured. The tension was growing. They came to see it clearly. The Indian Ocean wasn't just vast. It was claimed, ruled by Muslim kingdoms, guarded by powerful interests that didn't want them there. But not all doors were closed. In the month of April, they reached Malindi, and there they found a true ally. The Sultan received them with honor. He offered food, rest, and a gift more precious than gold, a skilled pilot Amur who knew the currents and the winds of the Indian Ocean. With him they set off again, toward their final crossing, toward India, now guided not just by stars, but by a man who knew the way. On the 20th of May, 1498, after 10 long months at sea, they saw it land. It was the coast of India. Palm trees, villages, temples, a new world, ancient as time. To the Portuguese, it was a discovery beyond imagination. They anchored off the shores of Calicut. Vasco da Gama sent men ashore. They were met with curiosity and suspicion. Muslim merchants who ruled the trade saw the Portuguese as intruders. The navigator asked for an audience with the Samorim, the ruler of the city. He brought letters from King Dom Manuel, fine cloth, silver, and modest gifts. But the Indians laughed. Gold, where is your gold? The gifts were humble compared to the wealth flowing through Calicut. Spices, ivory, silks, precious stones. The Samorim received them with ceremony, but not with warmth. Vasco da Gama, ever watchful, saw the risk. The deal was fragile, and their presence hung by a thread. Despite it all, he secured permission to load a few goods: pepper, cinnamon, ginger. What they secured wasn't much, but it was enough to send word to the king. We made it. The route was real. A passage had been secured into the heart of Eastern trade. The summer dragged on, first July, then August. Vasco da Gama remained off the coast of Calicut as the negotiations stalled, and the Samorim's intentions grew ever more unclear. Some of his men were arrested on land under the grave suspicion of spying. Muslim merchants conspired against him. The atmosphere was tense, fragile, and when they were finally granted permission to leave, the danger had not passed. A local pilot assigned to guide them attempted to lead the fleet into deadly waters. Vasco da Gama grew suspicious. He questioned him and ordered his punishment. With a new pilot, they turned back. But the Indian Ocean, now beyond the monsoon season, had become a sea of suffering. The crossing from Calicut to Malindi, meant to last weeks, dragged on for nearly 3 months. Scurvy took hold, gums decayed, bodies withered, and death became their silent companion. With too few men to sail her, the St. Raphael was abandoned and burned on the African coast. Only 2 ships remained, the St. Gabriel and the Berrio. In January 1499, they reached the African coastline. Aboard the Berrio, the course was set for Lisbon, guided by Nicolau Coelho. He did not return home at once. In the Azores, he watched over his brother, the one who had crossed oceans with him. But the sea does not spare all. His brother would never see Lisbon again. Vasco da Gama watched over him in silence. And when he finally sailed up the Tagus, it was already the summer of 1499. The mission was complete. But the man who returned was not the same one who had left. The sea had been charted. The route had been found. But something greater had been proven. That courage can carry a nation beyond the edge of the known world. They were not just explorers. They were the soul of a people, guided by the stars and moved by something stronger than fear. In the silence of the ocean, Portugal had found its voice, and the world would never be the same. For the voyage to India was not just a journey across the sea. It was the opening of a new age, the bridge between continents, the first thread in a global weave that would change the course of history.